power of three will set us free. For 8 magical seasons, Charmed spellbound a generation, teaching us that sisterhood is the ultimate weapon against evil. The Halliwell Manor felt like a second home to millions, but in a cruel twist of fate, even the strongest magic in the Book of Shadows couldn't protect the cast from the ravages of real life. From devastating cancer battles to sudden heart failures, the actors faced a darkness no potion could cure. With the recent heartbreaking loss of a lead sister, the magic feels dimmer today. Join us as we honor the witches, warlocks, and mortals who have left this realm forever, uncovering the heartbreaking truth behind the spells. Shannon Doherty joined Charmed in 1998 in the role of Prue Halliwell when she was 27 years old, the leader of the Power of Three, whose real-life battle against darkness was far more terrifying than any demon she faced on screen. Doherty was the biggest star attached to the project, bringing a massive built-in audience from her Beverly Hills 90210 fame. Her salary reflected her status, earning approximately $75,000 per episode, a significant sum for the late 90s, but a figure that eventually became a point of contention as the show's profits soared into the millions. Despite being the face of the franchise, she left after season 3 amid reported on-set tensions, walking away from a potential fortune in future syndication royalties that her co-stars enjoyed for decades. Her life was a tempest of public scrutiny, labeled the bad girl of Hollywood, but her true character was revealed in her final agonizing years. In 2015, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, which went into remission only to return as stage 4, spreading to her brain and bones. She worked through excruciating pain, documenting her decline to remove the stigma of the disease, all while facing a bitter divorce in her final months that drained her emotional reserves. She passed away on July 13, 2024, at the age of 53. She left behind a net worth of approximately $5 million, a fortune that was being rapidly depleted by exorbitant medical costs, dying as a warrior who fought to stay alive for her mother and her fans. Fun fact: she directed the season 3 finale All Hell Breaks Loose, which turned out to be her final appearance on the show, meaning she essentially directed her own character's death. Shannon Doherty was the anchor of the show, but in the later seasons, the sisters found stability in the workplace through a character played by an actress whose sudden illness shocked the Charmed community. Rebecca Balding joined Charmed in 1998 in the role of Elise Rothman when she was 50 years old, the scream queen of the 70s who became the grounding force of the Halliwell sisters' lives before a silent killer took her. Balding famously played Phoebe's boss at the Bay Mirror, appearing in over 20 episodes. While she was a recurring staple, her compensation was that of a guest star, earning the Screen Actors Guild weekly rate of approximately $3,500 to $5,000 per appearance. This was a humble paycheck for a woman with a cult following from horror classics like The Silent Scream. Unlike the main cast who became millionaires, Balding was a working-class actor who relied on consistent bookings rather than massive residuals. Her life was scandal-free and quiet, spent mostly in Utah with her husband, director James L. Conway. However, her end was swift and devastating. She was diagnosed with aggressive ovarian cancer, a disease she battled privately to avoid the pity of the industry. She passed away on July 18, 2022 at the age of 73. She left behind a net worth of $1.5 million, the savings of a woman who spent 40 years in the industry, proving that you can be a recognizable face to millions and still die with the modest means of a tradesman. Fun fact, Rebecca Balding actually appeared in season 1 of Charmed as a completely different character named Aunt Jackie, before returning later as Elise, a continuity error that fans love to point out. Elise Rothman was a mentor figure in the workplace, but the Halliwell bloodline was strengthened by family members, including an aunt played by a veteran character actress whose warm smile hid a heart that was slowly failing. Anne Haney joined Charmed in 2000 in the role of Aunt Gail when she was 66 years old, the beloved late bloomer of Hollywood whose maternal warmth on screen masked the physical frailty of her final days. Haney appeared as Aunt Gail, a close friend of the Halliwell matriarchs, bringing a sense of history and lineage to the magical household. To the world, she was famous as the social worker in Mrs. Doubtfire, but in the economics of television, she was a day player. Her fee for Charmed was likely the standard guest rate of around $2,500 for the episode A Pittance for an actress who brought such instant credibility and emotion to her scenes. Haney's career was unique because she didn't start acting until her husband died in the 1970s, using her grief to fuel a prolific second act in life. However, her time in the spotlight was cut short by biology. She suffered from congestive heart failure, a condition where the heart slowly loses its ability to pump blood effectively. She passed away on May 26, 2001, at the age of 67, less than a year after her appearance on the show. She left behind a modest estate of roughly $500,000, dying just as she was becoming one of the most recognizable grandmothers in cinema. Fun fact: she was a close friend of Robert Reed, the dad from the Brady Bunch, and was one of the few people who supported him during his private battle with HIV in the early 90s. Aunt Gail represented the safety of family, but the sisters were constantly hunted by demons, none more terrifying than the demon of fear, played by an actor whose villainous face was his fortune and his curse. Billy Drago joined Charmed in 1999 in the role of Barbas when he was 54 years old, the face of nightmares who terrified a generation of viewers while living a gentle artistic life off-camera. Drago played Barbas, the demon of fear, appearing in multiple seasons as the sisters' most persistent nemesis. With his pale skin and whispering delivery, Drago was iconic, yet he was typecast as the villain his entire life. His salary for Charmed was a recurring guest fee estimated at $4,000 to $6,000 per episode. Despite being the face of evil in movies like The Untouchables, he never achieved the leading man paychecks, working constantly in B-movies to maintain his lifestyle. His tragedy was a slow physical decline following a stroke that robbed him of his independence. The man who specialized in scaring others spent his final years trapping in a body that was failing him. He died on June 24, 2019, at the age of 73 from complications of the stroke. He left behind a net worth of $5 million of fortune earned by being the man everyone loved to hate, dying as a quiet recluse who preferred writing poetry to scaring children. Fun fact: before becoming an actor, Billy Drago was a journalist and a radio host, and he actually started his career as a stuntman in Texas, which explains his physical durability in action roles. Barbas used fear as a weapon, but the sisters eventually faced cosmic entities of immense power, including an avatar played by a horror legend whose recent death has left a massive void in the genre. Tony Todd joined Charmed in 2002 in the role of Avatar of Force when he was 48 years old, the horror icon with the velvet voice who worked himself to the bone until his heart finally gave out. Todd appeared as the Avatar of Force, a being of immense power, a role that utilized his towering 6'5" presence and deep rumbling voice. Famous globally as the Candyman, Todd was the hardest working man in the genre, accumulating over 240 credits. However, television guest spots like Charmed paid a standard premium rate of roughly $5,000 to $8,000, requiring him to constantly travel from convention to film set to maintain his earnings. He was a blue-collar legend who never said no to a role, whether it was a blockbuster or an indie film. His death is the most fresh and raw tragedy on this list. He passed away on November 6, 2024, at the age of 69 at his home in Marina del Rey after a long illness. He died, leaving behind a net worth of $4 million, every cent earned through grit, and a refusal to slow down even as his health began to fail him in his final years. Fun fact: Tony Todd was a trained theatrical actor who attended the Eugene O'Neill National Actors Theatre Institute, and he often said that he approached playing a monster like Candyman with the same seriousness as playing Othello. Tony Todd was a towering figure of fear, but the next actor was a man whose physical stature made him a true giant among men, yet his enormous heart could not support his unique physiology forever. Matthew McGrory joined Charmed in 2003 in the role of Ogre when he was 30 years old, the gentle giant of cinema whose record-breaking heart simply became too big for his body to sustain. McGrory appeared in 2 episodes as the Ogre, a role that required very little prosthetic makeup because he stood at a towering 7 feet 6 inches tall. While his physical stature made him $1 million visual effect in movies like Big Fish and The Devil's Rejects, his compensation in television was shockingly modest. For his guest appearances on Charmed, he was likely paid the standard Screen Actors Guild daily rate, plus a small hazard bump netting him approximately $3,000 for the week. This pales in comparison to the value his unique image brought to the screen. He was a spectacle that production companies often exploited for a bargain price. Behind the terrifying or monstrous characters he played lay a man of deep intelligence and law degrees who was keenly aware of his own mortality. His gigantism meant that his internal organs were under constant, immense strain. On August 9, 2005, just 2 years after appearing on Charmed, he passed away from natural causes related to heart failure at his home in Los Angeles. He was only 32 years old. He left behind a net worth estimated at $3 million. But he died, knowing that the very thing that made him famous his size was the ticking clock that would inevitably end his life prematurely. Fun fact, Matthew McGrory held the Guinness World Record for the largest feet wearing a size 29.5 shoe, and he often had to have footwear custom made for thousands of dollars just to walk comfortably. Matthew McGrory was a giant among men, but appearing alongside him in the magical community was a man of small stature, whose life ended in a darkness that no luck of the Irish could cure. Michael Gilden joined Charmed in 2003 in the role of Finnegan when he was 41 years old, the beloved character actor who brought joy as a leprechaun, but succumbed to a private despair that shocked the Hollywood community. Gilden played Finnegan, a leprechaun who grants the sisters luck utilizing his height to carve out a niche in a fantastical world. A veteran of NCIS and Star Wars Return of the Jedi, Gilden was a working-class actor in a niche market. His salary for Charmed was a standard guest star fee, roughly $2,500, for the appearance a humble wage for a man who had to fight twice as hard to be seen past his physical attributes. While he projected a jovial and energetic persona on screen and was part of a Hollywood power couple with his wife Meredith Eaton, his internal battles were hidden from the public eye. The tragedy struck on December 5, 2006, when Gilden died by suicide, hanging himself in his Los Angeles home. He was 44 years old. The community was devastated as there were few signs of the anguish he was carrying. He left behind a modest estate of under $500,000, leaving a legacy of breaking barriers for little people in media. Yet his story serves as a somber reminder that the happiest characters often hide the deepest pain. Fun fact, Michael Gilden originally worked as a stockbroker before turning to acting, proving he had a sharp mind for business that transcended the stereotypical roles he was often offered. Michael Gilden belonged to the magical realm, but the sisters often needed help from mortal law enforcement, provided by an inspector, played by a TV legend whose final years were stolen by a cruel disease and legal battles. Joe Itada joined Charmed in 2001 in the role of police inspector when he was 65 years old, the father figure of the Peach Pit who reunited with Shannon Doherty only to lose his own memories in a heartbreaking finale. Tada appeared as a police inspector in the episode The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed, a casting choice that served as a delightful nod to his years playing Nat Busicchio on Beverly Hills 90210, alongside Shannon Doherty. While he had been a regular on one of the biggest shows of the 90s, his role on Charmed was a simple day player gig, likely earning him around $3,000. It was a stark contrast to the steady paycheck of his prime TV years. Tada's life took a tragic turn in 2014 when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. The man who had been the warm listening ear for a generation of teenagers slowly lost his ability to recognize them. His final years were marred by a contentious conservatorship battle involving his daughter mirroring the public struggles of other aging stars. He passed away on August 24, 2022 at the age of 85 at a care home in Los Angeles. He left behind a disputed estate estimated at $1 million, drained significantly by medical costs, dying as a legend who could no longer remember the joy he brought to millions. Fun fact: before becoming the friendly gnat on 90210, Joe E. Tata was actually a prolific sci-fi villain in the 1960s, appearing in shows like Batman and The Outer Limits, showing a range that few fans appreciated. Joe E. Tata represented the law, but the sisters also dealt with benevolent magical entities, such as the Sandman, played by a comedy icon whose whimsical performance was his final gift before a silent battle claimed him. Henry Gibson joined Charmed in 2003 in the role of Sandman when he was 68 years old. The poet of Laugh-In, who sprinkled dust in our eyes while hiding a terminal diagnosis from the world. Gibson played the gentle Sandman who helps the sisters with their dreams, a role that perfectly utilized his soft-spoken elfin charm. A legend of variety television and film, famously appearing in The Blues Brothers and Nashville, Gibson was a prestige hire for the show. His compensation was likely a premium guest rate of roughly $5,000 to $7,000, a respectful sum for a man of his tenure. However, Gibson was a master of understatement both in comedy and in life. He battled cancer privately for a prolonged period, refusing to let his illness define his final performances or garner sympathy. He continued to work voicing characters and appearing in Boston Legal until he physically could not continue. He passed away on September 14, 2009 at the age of 73 at his home in Malibu. 2. He left behind a net worth of $8 million, a fortune amassed through decades of intelligent investing and steady work, dying as a beloved figure who slipped away as quietly as the Sandman he portrayed. Fun fact: Henry Gibson's real name was James Bateman. He created his stage name as a pun on the celebrated playwright Henrik Ibsen, showcasing his intellectual wit. The Sandman brought sweet dreams, but the sisters' lives were often turned into nightmares by romantic entanglements with warlocks played by a soap opera heartthrob whose life was a real-world tragedy of addiction. Tyler Christopher joined Charmed in 2000 in the role of Anton when he was 28 years old, the soap opera prince who seduced witches on screen but was slowly consumed by the demons of alcohol in real life. Christopher played Anton, a warlock who had a passionate affair with the sisters' ancestor, capitalizing on his smoldering looks that made him a star on General Hospital. At the time, he was one of the most famous faces in daytime TV, but his pay for a primetime guest spot on Charmed was a standard $3,000, a fraction of his soap salary. While he projected the image of the perfect leading man famously marrying Eva Longoria, his life was unraveling behind closed doors. He battled severe bipolar disorder and alcoholism for decades, leading to multiple arrests for public intoxication and a heartbreaking public decline. He lost his job on General Hospital and drifted into obscurity. On October 31, 2023, he was found dead in his San Diego apartment from positional asphyxia due to acute alcohol intoxication. He was 50 years old. He left behind a net worth estimated at $5 million from his peak years, but he died alone, a tragic reminder that the handsome exterior often hides a spirit in desperate need of healing. Fun fact: Tyler Christopher was a dedicated advocate for mental health awareness in his final years, openly discussing his bipolar diagnosis in hopes of helping others even as he struggled to save himself. Tyler Christopher played a lover from the past, but the next actor on our list played Prue Halliwell's contemporary love interest, a handsome leading man whose life was cut short by a mysterious and sudden illness just as his career was taking off. Scott Plank joined Charmed in 1999 in the role of Eric Lohman when he was 41 years old, the dashing leading man whose potential stardom was violently cut short by a catastrophic accident on a lonely highway. Plank appeared in the episode The Painted World as a smart and charming love interest for Phoebe, a role that utilized the rugged good looks that had previously made him a standout on Melrose Place. Despite his leading man appearance and a resume that included working with Michael Mann, the financial reality of his career was that of a working journeyman. For his guest arc on Charmed, he was likely paid the Screen Actors Guild weekly rate of approximately $3,500 to $5,000, a far cry from the multi-million-dollar contracts secured by the show's permanent cast. Plank was on the verge of breaking through to the next level of fame, constantly auditioning and working to secure that elusive, life-changing role. However, tragedy struck with brutal suddenness. On October 21, 2002, Plank was driving his truck in Los Angeles when he was involved in a severe collision. He suffered massive internal injuries and clung to life in the hospital for 3 agonizing days before succumbing to his wounds on October 24, 2002. He was only 43 years old. He left behind a modest estate estimated at $1 million, dying just as he was entering his prime, a handsome face frozen in time who never got the chance to grow old on screen. Fun fact: before he was an actor, Scott Plank was a dancer who performed in the original Broadway touring production of A Chorus Line, a skill that few casting directors ever utilized given his tough guy exterior. Scott Plank played a mortal lover, but the sister's destiny was ultimately decided by higher powers, including an angel played by an actress whose formidable strength on screen could not save her from a sudden and lethal infection. Denise Dowse joined Charmed in 2005 in the role of Angel of Destiny when she was 47 years old, the stern authority figure of 90s television who fell into a silent sleep from which she never woke up. Dowse portrayed the Angel of Destiny, a cosmic entity who offers the sisters a chance to retire from magic, bringing her signature commanding presence to the role. Best known as the strict Vice Principal Teasley on Beverly Hills, Nansu Tintin. Dowse was a fixture of television for decades. However, fame did not equal fortune for a character actress of her tier. Her compensation for Charmed was a standard day player rate, likely netting her around $3,000 for the appearance, requiring her to constantly hustle between directing theater and teaching to make a comfortable living. She was a pillar of the Hollywood artistic community, known for her resilience and work ethic. The shock came in August 2022 when she contracted a severe form of viral meningitis. The inflammation in her brain caused her to slip into a coma, leaving her family and fans praying for a miracle that never arrived. She passed away on August 13, 2022 at the age of 64, never regaining consciousness. She left behind a net worth of approximately $2 million, a fortune built on tireless work, dying as a beloved mentor who shaped countless careers while never receiving the mainstream flowers she deserved. Fun fact: Denise Dowse directed the biopic Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson story, which premiered just months before her death, serving as her final triumphant artistic statement to the world. The Angel of Destiny offered peace, but the Charmed ones were constantly hunted by demons, including one played by an actor whose terrifying scarred face was the result of a real-life horror story involving fire and drugs. Richard Lynch joined Charmed in 2003 in the role of Cronin when he was 63 years old, the villain with the ruined face whose on-screen monsters were nothing compared to the nightmare he survived in Central Park. Lynch played the demonic broker Cronin, a role that capitalized on his distinct scarred visage to create instant unease. While he was an icon of horror and sci-fi appearing in Battlestar Galactica and The Sword and the Sorcerer, Hollywood often exploited his trauma for cheap thrills. His pay for Charmed was a standard guest fee of roughly $4,000, a meager compensation for a man who literally gave his skin for his art. The scars were not makeup. In 1967, while under the influence of LSD in Central Park, Lynch set himself on fire, suffering burns over 70% of his body. He endured years of agonizing skin grafts and reconstruction, turning his pain into a career playing bad guys. He lived with constant physical discomfort and the psychological weight of that one terrible night. On June 19, 2012, he was found dead in his home in Yucca Valley, California at the age of 72. His body was discovered by a friend after he hadn't been heard from for days. He left behind a net worth of $1 million, dying as a cult legend who transformed a moment of self-destruction into a lifetime of endurance. Fun fact: Despite his terrifying appearance and typecasting as thugs, Richard Lynch was fluent in multiple languages, including German, and was a deeply intellectual method actor who studied with Lee Strasberg. Cronin was a merchant of evil, but the magical community also had its elders, played by a British veteran whose Shakespearean gravitas was silenced by the slow march of time. William Morgan Shepherd joined Charmed in 2003 in the role of Merrill when he was 71 years old, the Royal Academy-trained thespian who brought dignity to science fiction, but died a quiet death far from the London stage. Shepherd played Merrill, a warlock who attempts to steal the sisters' powers using his gritty, authoritative voice to elevate the material. A graduate of the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, Shepherd was a heavyweight talent who found himself working in American genre television like Star Trek and Doctor Who. Despite his pedigree, the economics of 2000s television treated him as just another guest actor. His fee for Charmed was likely the union maximum for a guest star, roughly $6,000, a humble sum for a man of his stature. He spent his career adding weight to fantastical scripts, often being the most overqualified person in the room. His tragedy was the inevitable decline of age. He spent his final years in a hospital bed in Los Angeles, battling a long illness that slowly stripped away his booming voice. He passed away on January 6, 2019, at the age of 86. He left behind a net worth of $3 million and a son, Mark Shepherd, who continued his legacy. But he died as a reminder that even the most classically trained titans eventually fade into the silence of mortality. Fun fact, he and his son, Mark Shepherd, played the same character, Canton Everett Delaware III, at different ages in the hit series Doctor Who, creating a permanent on-screen legacy for their family bloodline. Merrill sought power through magic, but other demons sought power through commerce, including a traitor, played by a ubiquitous character actor whose sharp mind was stolen by cancer. Bruce Gray joined Charmed in 2005 in the role of Keel when he was 69 years old, the face you saw in 1,000 movies who fought a private agonizing war against a tumor in his brain. Gray played Keel, a demon businessman who traffics in magical luck, a role that required his signature dry wit and sharp delivery. To the world, he was the father in My Big Fat Greek Wedding or the investment banker in Traders. But on Charmed, he was a working actor earning a scale wage of approximately $3,000 for the week. Gray was the definition of a success story in the middle class of Hollywood, working constantly without ever becoming a household name. However, his golden years were tarnished by a diagnosis of brain cancer. The disease slowly robbed him of his faculties, a cruel fate for a man known for his intelligence and quick verbal timing. He spent his final weeks in hospice care, surrounded by friends who watched a vibrant life fade to gray. He died on December 13, 2017, at the age of 81 in Los Angeles. He left behind a net worth of $2 million, a nest egg built on 5 decades of saying yes to every role, dying as a beloved professional who made every scene he was in better, even if the audience didn't know his name. Fun fact: in his youth, Bruce Gray paid his bills by working as a nude model for art classes, a fact he delighted in sharing with stuffy producers to shock them during auditions. Keel traded in luck, but the elders of the magical world dealt in destiny, represented by an actor whose sudden death from diabetes complications left a void in the Chicago theater scene. Jerry Becker joined Charmed in 2002 in the role of Ramus when he was 51 years old, the intense stage actor who commanded authority on screen but lost his battle with a crumbling body. Becker played Ramus, an elder of the Whitelighters who was targeted by a demon, bringing a serious, almost regal demeanor to the fantasy series. A powerhouse of the Chicago theater scene and a familiar face in films like Spider-Man and Donnelly Becker was an actor's actor. Yet his television work was often paid at the standard day player rate, earning him roughly $2,500 per episode. He was the kind of performer who added instant credibility to a scene, often playing lawyers, doctors, or stern fathers. His personal tragedy was a long-standing battle with diabetes, a disease that ravaged his health over the years. The complications became insurmountable, leading to his premature death. He passed away on April 11, 2019, at the age of 68 in Nyack, New York. He left behind a modest estate of under $1 million, dying as a respected artist who spent his life on the stage and screen fighting a quiet war against his own biology until the very end. Fun fact, Jerry Becker was a stockbroker in his 30s before he quit his lucrative finance job cold turkey to pursue acting, proving it is never too late to chase a dream even if it leads to a humbler paycheck. The elders watched from above, but on Earth, the tragedy of loss was felt most by mothers, including a woman played by an actress who channeled her own community's grief into her final roles. Elizabeth Sung joined Charmed in 1998 in the role of Mrs. Chow when she was 44 years old. The barrier-breaking Asian American pioneer who played a grieving mother on screen before her own life was cut short by a silent war with lymphoma. Sung appeared in the memorable Season 1 episode Dead Man Dating as the mother of a murdered Chinese-American man, bringing a heartbreaking realism to a show about fantasy. While she was a trailblazer who founded the Asian Pacific American Media Coalition to fight for representation, Hollywood often treated her as a background player. Her compensation for this emotional guest role was the standard Screen Actors Guild day rate of the late 90s, approximately $600 per day, or roughly $2,500 for the episode. It was a humble wage for a woman who was essentially carrying the emotional core of the storyline, while the series leads negotiated contracts worth tens of thousands. Her tragedy was a private battle with lymphoma, a cancer of the immune system that she hid from the public to keep working. She passed away on May 22, 2018, at the age of 63. She left behind a net worth of approximately $1.5 million, a fortune earned not through blockbuster checks, but through 4 decades of tireless advocacy and steady character work. She died as a revered mentor to a generation of Asian actors, yet her passing went largely unnoticed by the mainstream press, mirroring the quiet dignity she brought to every role. Fun fact: before becoming an actress, Elizabeth Sung was a professional ballet dancer in New York City, a discipline that gave her the graceful poise she maintained even in her final days. It's bittersweet looking back at the cast of Charmed. Though time has passed and some stars have left us, their legacy remains timeless on screen. Which story shocked or touched you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to help us keep these memories alive. Thanks for watching.